No, it's interesting. The characteristics of these two are almost identical. You know, obviously there's the sub on this is ridiculous. I actually was most satisfied by the low end listening to the little ones. Sorry, I'm ruining it for him. It's like no,
you know, it's
like the most expensive.
Listen,
the low end on those is insane.
It's pretty remarkable.
You probably sell bucket loads of those, I would imagine.
We do, and you know, obviously as you get into a bigger system and no room.
But there's more connection as you go up. So that's a little bit disconnected with the super low lows underneath, but very satisfying. And I can imagine a lot of EDM and hip hop guys, pop guys, love those because they love being in the room, really feel it. I imagine for mastering guys, the big system's probably pretty tasty.
Well, this is actually a neat piece. This is a little bit different than the sound of these two because it's all TAD components, which have a slightly more extended range, but at the same time slightly softer in the way that they hit. But they're very revealing, and the more time you spend with them, as a mixing speaker.
That makes sense for a mastering guy. The detail across 20 to 20 is much bigger.
Well, and the interesting thing is that we make a version of that with these are all our proprietary drivers, and they definitely, the bottom end driver can go a lot deeper and harder on these on the drivers we use in our standard series. But this other system is an ultra bandwidth system, 20 to 45K, very flatly tuned. This has a little bit more life to it, and I think positioning wise, if you look at room positioning, we have these two speakers that are kind of closer. Hey, I'm glad to hear what you're saying because this speaker is our least expensive speaker, and yet it's a very satisfying feeling when you.
How much is least expensive? How much are they?
Well, if you bought them without the subs, you can get them a couple different ways. This is 11 grand with 1 amp and a pair of speakers, right? And then that's in matte black. That's not a special color like this is. And then the sub adds. You can have one sub. And that becomes about 15 grand, and you get 2 amps that allows you to add a second sub if you want. That gets a 17.5, and then you get a pair of stands for $1,500. And those could be any height to fit your console position.
Right.
And we always focus on, the ear height, the distance that you're listening at has a lot to do with where you want the speaker positioned, and also other objects you might have if you had other near fields or whatever. And then when you get to what you see here with the Ferrari red, this is the Ferrari color to the T with the
Might have to be Aston Martin.
We did a pair in Aston Martin Sky Gray Metallic for Alicia Keys years ago.
Or British Racing Green.
I haven't done any British Racing Green. Right?
What?
Did we do any green speakers ever? Yes, we did. There's a pair in Brazil. Yeah, there's a Brazilian. Oh yeah, we did a slime green. Slime green. The room hasn't opened yet, but it's what's the guy's name? Pusheisty? Somebody. I don't know. I'm just gonna say the color thing adds a little bit. This is 22,000 as you see.
Well, listen, I'd like to listen to the whole song because I reference this one because, or this whole album. He's an independent artist. I don't know what's he got. He's got like 1.5, 2 million monthly listeners every month. The song he's about to play has got like 89 million plays, and he's an independent artist. And we recorded it at our old studio. I mixed it in a hybrid fashion on the SSL, and I spent more time and care on this vocal than any other vocal I've ever done because there's so much stuff where it's just an acoustic guitar or just a droning instrument playing. So for me it's the other test song that I always do because for speakers, because the vocals should be sitting sort of here. To me, a great vocal, like Bob Clearmountain vocal, is always like a ball of energy in the front that you kind of pick up. And so I tried really, really hard on this to get it. So
sounds cool. I'm
worried. I've just given it a big setup. It's going to be like, God, that sounds like total poop.
I've always liked him as an artist, so it's cool to know your own history with it because we'll get that. And, we won't have a triple dredge session this time.
Did you do this?
He loves the red speakers, so we'll start on these red speakers, Sam.
Oh, you did the next one. You did the next one. which is also another phenomenal.
Start it.
There's a way, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way.
How was that for you?
It's good because there was a lot of listening that went into that, a lot of not doing very much.
I love the mix actually.
Thank you. It's where's my wife? It's my wife's drum kit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's just as you can see, like a floor tom and like almost nothing. And you have to have the sound of the room and just.
I could hear all of the air off of the bottom head, and the way it like expands.
And it's a stand-up bass. I think it was Dan Rothschild playing bass.
Could you add that to my tuning list? I'm always looking for tracks, okay? Because so tuning is a really interesting thing because we can shape and change so much about the way the response is, because these horns have. I'm always interested in how people listen and understanding, let's say, how your ears are interpreting what we just heard there. So,
well, I mean, I'm sure everybody could hear from across the speakers. I mean, there is no low resonance in his voice. It is like completely structured. To me, the greatest vocal sound outside of anything Bob Clearmountain mixed is anything Peter Gabriel sings. Peter Gabriel, because he has a in his voice. And has anybody heard the new album, the new I.O. album?
Yeah, the chord. Which version of the chord?
Both, whether it's Chads or Spikes. I mean, and people know how
it's in our playlist.
Yeah, you know how he records.
Actually,
he doesn't wear headphones. He records in a room with the speakers next to him.
That's the same as Bruce Springsteen. We did his studio, and there had to be 3 stations around the studio with NS10s facing him, and so Toby was on one side of the console. There was no control room. They're facing each other with NS10s facing each other, and he would put the pair facing Bruce out of phase so he could take it out of the track later.
There's only so much you can do, though.
Yes,
I've done it many times. I mean, but the point is like it's that was a benchmark for me, Peter Gabriel's vocal, because I wanted to hear body in the vocal. I want to hear the presence, for want of a better word, of the low end, but nothing that would interfere. So when you hear that tom go, ooh, it just rings, rather than all that kind of 200 or 300 from the vocal. It was a labour of love. I couldn't just slap 5 plugins on it and hope for the best. Let's put Soothe 2 on and everything will be great. No, it had to be like going in there, like so much detail work.
Well, one of the interesting things about what you just said about actually going into the plugin or going into the thing and working on it, today a lot of people have shifted into this press a template button or press a setting, and it's like, okay, that sounds pretty good, instead of actually digging and doing
Which
that.
sometimes it does, unfortunately.
I just love hearing that you're actually still in, when you're working on something like that you're digging that deep into it.
I think automation is still the best thing. Even if you're using an AI-ish something or other, getting in and automating it, whatever, is always going to be take us to the next level. And with Trevor, who's a very even singer anyway, it was really just getting in there and taking syllables and turning them up, turning them down, making sure everything was hitting evenly at all times. It was a big deal. It sounds phenomenal. It's interesting with that track, and it would be a good one for you because it translates really well across all 3 speakers.
Well, and of course, when you got to the big speaker, in a way, this young woman in the middle, she's actually in the sweet spot for the.
I kept thinking, should I get up and walk around and get to, yeah.
Well, it is definitely a spot to hear the big speakers, that row, because the distance of them apart also relates to where the low frequency and the high frequency all come together perfectly. This speaker, by the way, you can sit 1 foot from it and it will come together as one thing. This speaker, it's about 3 feet. That speaker is really like 2 meters before it even does anything. But when we look at how we should be listening, we want to be inside a pretty good equilateral triangle, but we want to be on the inside of it, not with our nose at the equilateral triangles. A lot of times when I go to tune speakers, I see people have their near fields, or they have their even their mids or mains pointed more at like between their monitor and their face. And once I open that up and bring it back so that it's here, the focus, then suddenly you're inside the music, not. And these are omnidirectional, but they have like rear rejection. So this microphone likes to have sound aimed all around it, not just at one point at a time.
Well, we all hear so differently, don't we? I've done, over the years, I've had all the, measure the pin A, and Stephen Slate's a good friend, and he's really obsessed with that stuff now. That's what he wants to bring to the next level in all of his technology, headphones and stuff. Because I hate low mids. There's certain speakers, and I don't want to talk bad about any company, because something that I don't like, somebody else might love. But I mean, Sam knows, if I went to a studio with at least the old school Adams speakers, I'd be like, because they have like a little bit of a low mid bump. And I hate that, because I already hate the 350 area anyway. I'm always scooping a little extra out. So I need a speaker that is speaking in across the board, but doesn't get stodgy. That's a very English word, stodgy. Doesn't get like gluey in the low mids, and I'm sitting there for hours trying to figure it out. Because if you've got enhancement in that area, it's a waste of time for me. I need that to be flat as a bleeding pancake. And these did. Now, the vocal was the thing, because the reason why this worked for me was because, as a song, was because I'd sculpted those low mids so much to make sure they fit, to let all the other instruments breathe. Even that drone, sitting that in there. It's so much detail work with like automating EQs and stuff like that, that it showed on every single speaker. So, thank you.
So much. Well,
you made me look good.
Actually, I just was struck by this thing, and Sam Norton is actually both of our proteges. Actually.
I think he's his own protege.
He's done all the work, but he's been under a bit of your wing and under a bit of my wing, and he actually tuned all of these. This show, I did absolutely no tuning. I came in to test it, and I said, hey, you have a computer ready? Let me make an adjustment. And when we balanced it out, you could hear that these are all really dialed in. And so, super proud of what Sam brings, and I do think you have a connection to that.
What's that, sorry? I have a connection to.
I'm super proud of what Sam brings to the company, and I always think that the combination of the things he learned from you and all the other things he's done, brings that to the tuning process.
I was thinking about it this morning before we came here. Like, Sam and I are cut from almost exactly the same cloth. Like, we both work without exaggerating, the joke about 1 hour. Probably every day we worked together was about 18 hours.
And that's, he was telling me that the foodie that came from your family's house, or he would get it on his way home at like whatever time AM it was, so I think that's
very few people always say to me, how do you do so much stuff? Well, try working hard. You know what I mean? It's really just that, and very few people have ever matched me, and Sam is one of, like Sam and Phil, and of course Eric Von Derrickson over there, and that's three great people. But we're talking about, we've probably had 20, 30 people come through. It's tough in this work.
And I think it's a great message to get out to people, which is, everybody wants the rewards, right? But they come from hard work, innovation, creativity, never giving yourself a pass, no excuses. You got to just do it. There's not like any cheat code actually to getting, the experience.
I think you just got to keep your ego in check. That's it. Mic drop. No, you do. It's like, what is...
So,
I'm just another guy, like everybody here, who's a fan of music.
You put one leg on at a time, or
exactly.
do you put your sock on first, or is it... anyway. So
always put your socks on last.
You said something.
Remember that?
One thing you said about having a speaker that's too tubby and walking in, and a lot of companies make speakers that are pretty good, but they are room dependent items, right?
Sure.
It's almost, I don't think you can listen to a speaker without speaker plus room. Yeah. And we just innovated a new product that actually talks to this, which is,
fantastic.
You love this bass. Maybe you love a different speaker brand, but you love this bass, right? So we now have an amp that basically drives two channel sub outputs. You can run either 1 or 2 subs, or you can even run 4 subs and 2 channels. So depending on how you're using your system, how many drivers you have, how big a subsystem you need, or how big your mains are. And then the other 2 outputs are line level, but they're using our tuning tools. So you have 10 bands of 8 different types of filters that I use in tuning our Augspurgers. You're going to be able to apply that to every other speaker brand. So you get our tuning tools, you get our sub output, and then you can pick from any one of our 6 different subwoofers to match up. And like, so in Jason Joshua's room, when we built that, he has double 15, double 18
I've heard that room. It's insane.
Yeah, the article the piece you did with him was unbelievable. But so he's got double 18s, but you know his near field of choice is ATC 45s, and he's actually running, because of the way our standard amp runs. There's two inputs into it, so one can be for your mains, and the other could be if you want to run another channel. And in this case, we're using that to drive the subs independently, so he can attach the 45s to the subs. And it gave me this idea, actually. He's like, because we first had it attached to a different sub brand that, you know, it could be tuned, but you couldn't do anything to the top box to get that blend between where the mid driver or low frequency driver and the subwoofer could go. And not only that, but by being able to shape where maybe where the low mid driver rolls off to match what the sub is doing, you can get an absolutely perfect match. And that's what Sam actually did the remote tuning for Jason's subwoofer match. I'm going to be going over this week to test that, by the way. I'm just going to let you know. Jason told me it was awesome, by the way, that we could dial into his room and adjust it. And so tuning to me is the secret ingredient to why Augspurger works in so many
come
ways.
back at 12:30 for Jason.
Yes, Jason. And then
Actually, stay for Lola. Then Jason, you know, we'll just stay here.
you are welcome to
Have your
stay.
food delivered. Yeah,
We're
have your
trying to-
food delivered.
We're trying to keep it interesting. Anyway, the sub-max system allows anybody to add our subs to any speaker that they want.
Marvelous.
And tune that speaker. So we, you know, and you can also get us to tune it or remote tune it. So you can have our human intelligence applied to your studio.
Nice.
So
I'll go with that. I'll be like, Dave says, HI.
HI. The question is, do you want to blend it with AI and have high technology, or just want to be high technology?
The AI that I have, exactly. In all seriousness, the only AI I use is just for the dumb stuff, to fill in stuff.
Well, I got this come on from ChatGPT to do a business plan with their AI, and I got to tell you, the future is very scary, because I filled in a couple of things. I put my social media, I made a paragraph about what we do, and then I pressed the button. In less than the time I could take to look back at the screen, I had a 125-page business plan. Okay, and I started reading it, and I'm like, what the hell is in here? You know, what could they do in 0.4 of a second? And I started reading, and I was like, wow, this is good. Like, I got, and I'm like, wait a minute, I wrote that. Okay, so it was regurgitating all my marketing, all my details, everything I've done, and that's why. This is why I thought of this HI issue, and then I realized, like, everything we do is hand-honed, right? It's hand-hewn. So, like, there are AI bots out there that will tune your speakers for you.
Yeah.
Or you could have a human being do it. I don't know. But that said, is there any last song you want to play for us?
No, I'm getting the 5-second
Yeah,
warning. So
we got the same one.
I think you have your next guest.
Before we go,
I don't want to subject anybody to any more music at the moment.
would you mind signing some Augspurger hats for anybody that's wanting
Sure.
one? Anybody want a signed Augspurger hat by Warren, myself? Yeah. Me too. I want one. We only have about 4 hats to give away, so I don't know. Like, no, I'm kidding. Can you give me half a stack and see where we are?
Thanks, everyone.
We could do a little better than that.
Hope you're all doing marvelously well.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Legendary.